All right, so as we're getting into solving today, we're going to do the easier part of it today. Tomorrow's going to be a little bit more in-depth, okay? So for today we're going to do the first part, solving them by just cross-multiplying. You guys want to cross-multiply every time you see fractions, so today we're actually going to get to do it, okay? Tomorrow we'll focus on solving when we have to use the LCD again, because tomorrow we'll have more than just fraction equals fraction, where we can't just cross-multiply. All right, so real quick, take a minute at your seat. Go ahead and solve that. That's something you should have done probably 7th, 8th grade-ish. Yep. So go ahead and solve this however you would. All right, so what did you guys do to solve this? Say that again, Katie. Okay, so 9 times 5 was 45. Equals, cross the other way, right? 3 times x, 3x. What happened to your fraction? It went away. It disappeared. Anytime we're solving all the way through this section, I know there's 2 different ways to solve that we'll look at today and tomorrow, but the fractions will disappear, which is what we want. Okay, and then we just solve like normal, so divide by 3. So what did x equal? 15. What would the restrictions have been from that original problem? X cannot equal 0. So I got an answer of 15, so is it okay? Yeah, I didn't get any of my restrictions, so I would have been good. Right? 0 would have been the only restriction right here. I didn't get 0, so I'm fine. This answer is good. Okay, how are we feeling? Remember how to do that from like years back? Okay, that's mainly what we're focusing on today. So we're just looking at cross multiplying. So if you look at your purple sheet, it'll say solving fraction equals fraction. That's when we can actually cross multiply. Okay, so we'll cross multiply first. Your fractions will be gone. Go ahead and solve for x. That's a very general statement because depending on what your problem looks like, sometimes you may have to factor in there, sometimes you just divide, sometimes you add, it just kind of depends on what it looks like. And then step 3, make sure you check for the extraneous solutions. So in other words, I've been making you guys learn all last week how to do your restrictions. So look back, the answer that you got, was it a restriction? If it's one of your restrictions, cross it off, it's no good. If it's not a restriction, you're fine. Okay, so here we go. This is number 1. Notice how it's fraction equals fraction. So we can just cross multiply. Now, when I cross multiply, does it matter which way I go first? No, it doesn't matter. So, yes, you are correct. Be careful. I'm going to probably go one step at a time with you guys just to make sure we don't miss anything. But we're going to do 3 times x minus 1. So Ramon was right. When we get into this, we'll actually have to distribute this. Equals, cross the other way. Good. 4 times x plus 1. All right, so then we can actually distribute this. So we get 3x minus 3 equals 4x plus 4. Notice at this point, after you cross multiply, your fractions are gone. And now it's just back to basic algebra. How do you go ahead and finish this? What do you guys want to do? How do you solve for x? Get x by itself, so we have to subtract 3x. So negative 3 equals x plus 4. I'm not confusing you on this step, am I? Is it so easy you guys are lost? Okay. Subtract 4. So x equals negative 7. Your last step, don't forget it, is to check for extraneous. Go back to the original. What would your restrictions have been? Good. Your restrictions would have been plus or minus 1. You're fine. No, totally. I knew what you meant. So if I have x equals negative 7, is that an okay answer then? Yeah, it's not one of my restrictions, so this is a good answer. X equals negative 7. Mm-hmm. Yes, you will. You'll lose a point or 2 on every single question. No, you don't have to list your restrictions. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to. But you definitely need to still look at them. All right, so number 2. Step 1, notice again it's fraction equals fraction, because tomorrow they won't be. So we'll cross multiply. So 2 times x minus 1 equals 1 times x squared minus x. Again, as you get more and more comfortable, if you're fine to like distribute that as you go, that's fine. But what I find is a lot of students, they'll distribute like that 2 to the x, but then they won't distribute the 2 to the 1. And then they lose things. Okay, so that's why I like to write it down that way first and then distribute. So we'll get 2x minus 2 equals x squared minus x. How do you solve something that has an x squared? I can't do square root because there's going to be a b value. What should I do before, I guess, would be the question. Before I even can do that, I need to set my entire equation equal to 0. So anytime you guys see an x squared, so if you have x squared, set the equation equal to 0. You're probably going to have to factor. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move everything to the other side. So we'll get 0 equals x squared. If I subtract 2x, gives me negative 3x. We'll have to add the 2. And I know that bothers some of you because I put it on the other side. Why did I move it to that side? I know you guys like it all on the other side, but why did I go over there? Good. I didn't want to make my x squared negative. That's why I moved it all to the right, even though you guys don't like that side. All right. Can I factor that to solve now? Mm-hmm. Good, Ramon. No, you're good. Good. So if you have an x squared, you got to set equal to 0, so then you can go ahead and factor that. Or what if it doesn't factor? Quadratic formula. Oh, yeah, you know, all that stuff we've learned all semester keeps coming back. All right, so what does x equal? 2 and 1. Don't forget that last step. Check for extraneous. Real quick, if I go back up and check for extraneous, do you know what the extraneous is here, or what would you have to do? What? Yeah, you'd have to pull out the GCF to see what your restrictions are here. So what would your restrictions be? 0 and 1. So look at the answers we found. I found an extraneous one. So what do I do? Is this a good answer then? No, this is not a good answer. So the only good answer I actually have is 2. Okay, so it's important to go back and check that, because sometimes extraneous ones show up, but they're actually not good because they're going to make a 0 in your denominator, which we can't have. All right, number 3. So again, notice it's fraction equals fraction. I need you to make sure you're noticing that. So we can cross multiply. So 1 times x squared plus 4x equals 3 times x plus 4. And ta-da, fractions are gone, which is what we love. Ramon? Hold on. Yep, one step at a time here. So I have that equals 3x plus 12 that he's distributing. We have an x squared. What do I have to do? Good. So let's subtract the 3x. It's going to give me a positive 1x. And subtract the 12. If you have an x squared, you've got to set that thing equal to 0. And then does that factor. Good. X plus 4, x minus 3 equals 0. So what does x equal? Negative 4 and 3. All right, I need to check my restrictions though, right? So if I come back up to the top, what will I have to do with this one to find the restrictions? I got to factor that one to find them. So it'd be x plus 4. So what would my restrictions be? Negative 4 and 0. So look at your answers. That's not a good one. That one's extraneous. Will there always be an extraneous one? No. But you always got to check for it because you never know when it's going to show up. Number 4. Things are getting a little uglier, right? There's got more pieces going on. Does it change how I attack the problem? No, it really doesn't. Okay, I'm still going to cross multiply. So again, I'm going to go one step at a time. I have 2 times x squared minus 10x plus 16 equals, when I cross the other way, notice I have a 2x minus 4 times x plus 2. Yes, and thank you for quoting that. But yes, you would. But do you see why I like to write it down and try to multiply it all at once sometimes? Because that gets a little confusing if you try to do it otherwise. But if I just give you this, I'm going to bet most of you would multiply that just fine. Okay, so I'll start by distributing over here first. So we'll get 2x squared minus 20x plus 32 equals, I'm going to distribute all of this. Good, 2x squared all right. So we got a lot going on up there. Did you guys notice this? Yeah, that's going to be gone. All right. So what do you want to do with this? I would never take out a greatest common factor until it's like set equal to 0 and I'm trying to factor. What happens to your x squared terms? They go away. Because if I go and I'm like, oh, all right, I'm going to subtract 2x squared, right? And I try to do that, what happens to your x squareds? They're actually gone. They canceled out. So really, let's kind of rewrite. I got a negative 20x plus 32 equals negative 8. Will I need to set this equal to 0 to try to factor this? No, I can just solve this for x, right? I'll subtract 32. So we get negative 20x equals negative 40. Good. So we'll divide by negative 20. And x equals 2. All right, I got to check for extraneous though, right? Let's go back to the top. That's going to give me negative 2, which that's okay. What about this one? We have to factor this to know what that restriction is. Do you guys figure out how that factors? 2 and 8, so negative 2, negative 8. 2 is a restriction. So this problem has no solution because it's an extraneous one. It's going to give me a 0 in the denominator, which I can never have in math. Remember Cookie Monster? Sad with no cookies? And you have no friends? How are we feeling so far? We're just kind of flowing through here. We all right? Any questions so far? All right. Why don't you guys try number 5 on your own? All right. Let's go ahead and go through it and see how we did. So we'll cross multiply. We have x minus 2 times x plus 3. 2 times x is 2x. All right. So we're going to have to multiply this side together. So we get x squared plus 3x minus 2x minus 6 equals 2x. Okay, so right away I'm going to recognize I have an x squared. This thing needs to be set equal to 0. So I have x squared. That's going to give me 1x. I'm going to have to subtract that one over. It's going to give me minus x minus 6 equals 0. You may have done that a few more steps than me. That's okay. Then we need to factor. Since there's an x squared, we've got to factor that to solve. So x minus 3 and x plus 2. So therefore, x equals 3 and negative 2. Double check for extraneous. Come back to the top. Your restrictions would be 0 and negative 3. So this is okay? That's okay. Any questions? Did we do okay? We have one problem to go. And then I'm going to give you time to work today. All right, a lot of time for work. All right, you want to do it together or you want to try it on your own? Okay. All right, guys, here we go. I'll walk you through. So we have to cross multiply. So we have x times 2x minus 3. Cross the other way, 4x times x minus 1. Again, I like to go one step at a time, make sure I don't lose anything. So we'll distribute the x, get 2x squared minus 3x equals 4x squared minus 4x. Did you find a mistake already? That's the easy part. We shouldn't have messed up there. All right, so we have x squared, so we know we need to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to move everything that way. So I'll subtract 2x squared. I'll add the 3x. This is gone. I have 0 equals. That gives me 2x squared minus x. All right, how do I solve that? Good. Now I can pull up that GCF. We're left with 2x minus 1. So then we know that x equals 0 and half. Good. Your only restriction is 0. So that 0 right there is no good. So just half is the only good answer. What? No. Question was just asked, if you put down only x equals half and you don't put the 0 at all, is that wrong? No. If I ask you what does x equal and you tell me half, we're good. Okay? But if you're like me, a lot of times I'm writing my answers down and then I go back and look, I'm like, oh wait, that one's no good. You can just cross it off. Don't feel like you have to erase it or anything. Just put a big old X through it and I'll know that you noticed it. Okay? That's the same way I did right there. Questions on anything? Okay. I'm going to give you guys your homework assignment and then the rest of the time, homework and IXL. Do not wait until Thursday night to start that IXL. It's not going to get done, and it is not a challenge.